Welcome again to another CheapWineFinder.com podcast. This is Domain Dave, and today we got a line of wines that are some of my favorites. Current favorites. Every year is different. Vintages of wines change, and this is let me grab the bottle. It's a simple name, and I should remember it. But I'm going to look at it and say this is Substance CH Chardonnay 2020. It's from the House of Smith Wines. That's Charles Smith out of Washington State. He has wines from $100 to $150 wines to this wine, which I think lists for $15, and I got it for $12.99. And this one's 93 points from James Suckling. James Suckling's the leading American wine critic, and 93 points for any wine is killing it. And this is a wine that's, like I said, I found for $13. I'm going to take a sip and we're going to talk about it. It's sourced from three vineyards. One in the Wild Oak Slope. It's a one on a hilltop that has soil, ancient soil. I mean, there was a big flood 12,000 years ago that washed a lot of the soil away. So this is soil that's been there for more than 12,000 years. And one of the things they picked for all three vineyards, and that one I just mentioned, the Wild Oak Slope, was 70%. And then they have another vineyard from the Rattlesnake Hills, and that again has limestone that's crumbling. So it's ancient. It's an old ancient reef that is crumbling apart. And then there's 3% from another vineyard that's just in the Columbia Valley. It's 52 years old for a Chardonnay vineyard, which is fairly old. I mean, Chardonnay is not like Zinfandel. They pull it out every so often and renew them. This one never got that. So it's an older vineyard. They add a little bit of that to it just to add a little bit of something special. I mean, I always used to wonder why. And I would see these, 2% of this or 1% of that. And it's like, why would they do that? Well, it's, because it doesn't make that much of a difference. And the answer is, yeah, it does. And they're looking for the exact thing. They want it to taste this way and this way exactly. And you have to add 3% sometimes to get there. So they did that with this. The 2020 vintage in Washington State is said by some, and, I don't know them. But I wouldn't know, but I read about it, and it's said to be the best vintage ever. So if you're looking for Washington State wines and you have a choice between 19, 20, or 21, you might want to grab the 20 just because the grapes were so good. It had a long, perfect growing season. The acidity was going to be just right because it didn't get too hot where the acidity would rise. And so you had this full of flavor but balanced acidity. So it's a really great year. It's aged 10 months in French barriques. A barrique's a Bordeaux barrel. If you think about what a barrel, just naturally think about it, that's a barrique. They come in all sizes, but that's what it is. French oak, 25% new. But this is not a super oaky wine. There is some creaminess to it. There is some vanilla going on, some custard maybe. But I think all those taste great, Take another sip. They use natural yeast. In vineyards, well, most places, there's yeast floating through the air. And they attach themselves to the skin of the grapes. And after 4 days, that stuff started working and started fermenting the grapes. They do have commercial yeast, and people use those. And if the natural yeast doesn't work, you got to use it. But it's thought that the yeast that floats through the vineyard is the better match for the grape. So they always try to use that when possible, but doesn't always work out that way. And you're not going to complain about commercial yeast. You're not going to know the difference unless someone tells you, because it's going to taste a little different. There you go. So there we have this really good Chardonnay, carefully selected vineyards, a really nice oak program that is balanced. It tastes great. It is. It has great length. If you ever go to a Burgundy tasting, I said this many times. You tell them it's the wines have great acidity and great length. They're happiest. That's what they're looking for, and that's what this wine has. It has some of the attributes of a Burgundian Chardonnay, and it's from Columbia Valley, and it doesn't cost that much money. And there you go. No, we at Cheap Wine Fighter, we're not wine critics, we're wine fans. I mean, we don't place ourselves as critics. I mean, like people that, like I just mentioned James Suckling, those people have studied for years and take meticulous notes, and we just tell you what we like. We go out and we find wines we look for and taste, and this is what I think about this wine. And this is more like a friend talking to a friend about wine rather than a teacher talking to a student. But that's where we are with this, and this is a kind of wines I really like. Washington State wines usually have nice rounded fruit flavors. They're wines that I tend to gravitate for, and they tend to be reasonably priced. Though California wines and Oregon wines are great too. I mean, it's kind of embarrassment of riches right now because all the West Coast growing areas are really killing it. So what we have here is the Substance CH Chardonnay 2020. It's a 93-point wine that I found for $13. I like it a lot. If you're looking for a go-to Chardonnay this fall and holiday season, something you want to bring out and you want to impress your guests, this is a good wine. This ain't a good wine for the money. This is just a good wine. So there you go. That's it for me, Domain Dave, cheapwinefighter.com. Like us where you like your podcast, if you will. Always appreciate that. And stay safe. We got some cool wines coming up. And adios. Bye-bye.